Hello, cousins. Welcome to Sass Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witching chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and by participating in Sass, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which I'll post in the chat. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. We will now get started with a few announcements. So we have Crafting the Bond on April 28th at 2 p.m. PST with Jen Marie. It's going to be super fun, a familiar workshop for those who are just finding their familiars, seeking their familiars, and even those who have already found them. We have a Rituals and Revelry part 2 coming up in June. We don't have the details posted, but keep your ears perked because that'll be coming right up. Um, we have the Autumnal Convergence, the in-person retreat, September 27th through the 30th. It's going to be amazing. Uh, and we have a chat on that to discuss any questions that you might have coming up on May 5th, right after Sass. Tonight, we have the Witch Work Circle. It's going to be super fun, a really relaxing one. Um, And if you're in the Spellcrafters Guild and you want to help facilitate, please reach out to me for the meeting link. We meet an hour and 15 minutes before the circle. If you have any other questions, please reach out to support at brightanddark.org, or please email us at support@brightanddark.org. Okay, I think that's all the announcements that I have. I'm Ocean. I'll be your moderator today. If you need anything, please message me. And I'm going to go ahead and let Jen Marie take it away.
I am actually out with the puppies this morning, and I'm sitting right next to Stella, and she's decided that right now is a really great time to eat some like delicious kibble. So if you guys can hear that, like gentle apologies. Um, man, it's been a wild week. It's been a wild week, and a wild week in this, like, at least for me, uh bright new possibilities, new world, new reality kinds of like massive changes that are really exciting. Like everything is pointing to uh that it's already done at this point. All we got to do is just put one foot in front of the other kinds of things. And I know that that's a little vague, but that's what's coming through. And then puppies, right? I've been all up in the puppies for a couple weeks now, and it's adorable. In fact, I'm injured and suffering because of it. I was telling everyone at the live this morning that I like my neck and shoulders are so tight that I'm like, man, am I sleeping weird or like what's going on here? And I realized why I'm hurting so much. And it's from snuggling puppies, like going like this and like curling up around them. That I'm injured from doing that. And I know that because when I do that, oh my God, it sets off all of the muscles that are super mad at me right now. So if anyone can hold space for my suffering, my puppy huffing injuries, I would greatly appreciate that. It's a hard life. And the other thing I noticed that I started doing, because right now they're getting to the point where they're aware of their surroundings and curious about things. So I'm like down on all fours, getting my face as close to the ground as I possibly can so that I can be like eyes to eyes with them. Because they're like super curious and it's really cute. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is probably what's kind of like fucking up my neck too. I have cervical kyphosis. So that particular like position of trying to look a 5 inch tall puppy in the eyes is not like it's not awesome. I'm not built for this. Uh, but once we get the conversation going, I am going to switch to puppy mode because everybody was kind of appalled in the blanket fort that I would even think about not putting the puppies on the screen. So sorry, guys. I was like, are they a distraction? They're like, no, they're not a distraction. So just wait. What have you guys been doing? Does anyone have any kind of like burning undercurrent you've been experiencing or like a question that's been kind of burning in the back of your mind all week? Anything? For me, the other thing that's going on is spring. Did you guys hear Stella just belch? Excuse me, ma'am. Like that was right in my face. Um, so the other thing that's happening is spring in Alaska. And love spring in Alaska for a lot of reasons, but one of my favorite reasons is that it's a collective, such a collective experience for everyone in Alaska. Everyone's happy, everyone's excited to see each other, and there's these like excited conversations in the grocery lines and everything about what they're doing and how cleanup is going and everything. And we've all been cooped up for the last like 8 months and isolated and cold, and the sun is out. We hit 55 degrees yesterday. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to feel the warmth of the sun on my skin. Like that's so great. It's so great. And springtime in Alaska happens really, 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 really fast. And there's already green grass poking up through the like layer of debris from the melt off. And that's exciting. So at any if anyone is new to Sass, at any point you can be like, hey, I want to weigh in on something, or if again you have anything you want to talk about, or any kind of like experience or question, even because there's a lot of witches up in here that love answering questions and sharing their experience about being a witch or life as a witch, or help you raise that bar for weird to an appropriate. Or I could just switch to puppy mode and we can go zen for this Sass. Like, I'm not opposed to that either. Oh, hi, Maya. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
So I kind of have a question slash want input. So for the past like week, I've had three dreams that are super similar, and I'm not sure how to interpret. And it has to do with deity work. So basically, all the dreams consist of me making a candle that is meant to be a form of invocation for Hecate, and then putting that candle and burning it on top of a mirror, and then looking into that mirror and then seeing different things. Usually, like animals like wolves or cats. I don't know what that means, but I've had three of them. And anytime I asked for signs, I asked for it in threes. So I was hoping to get a little bit of guidance on that.
Are you, well, I guess you said you are up for weigh-ins. Excuse me, sorry. I totally have a weigh-in for that. I have a couple of questions if that's okay, Maya.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sweet. Um, so my questions are what does Hecate mean to you? How did you feel during the dream? And what does the number three mean to you?
I'm not sure what Hecate means to me, to be honest. Like I haven't like I was super into Greek mythology when I was in high school. Like I haven't really thought about her too much. But in the dream, like looking in the mirror, the first time I had the dream, I was like stunned and kind of scared, but also felt like more like a wisdom type moment that I was supposed to be seeing this message, but I just like it just wasn't going on in the noggin, you know? It wasn't clicking. And the number three is pretty special to me. I have triquetra tattooed on me and a lot of life, death, rebirth type thing is what I kind of connect the number three with, and is like pretty significant in my life. But I know Hecate is like the triple goddess, but like I'm not really sure, you know.
Right. And how did those symbols make you feel during the dream?
Um, really connected, I guess. Like I saw the pretty much the same images of a wolf and a black brindled cat, and like the wolf just seemed really familiar to me. My last name's Wolf, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But the cat seemed like more of a guide or like a messenger of sorts, I guess.
Okay. And my last question is, did you write this all down?
I did because each of the dreams started off differently and then ended the same. So I did write them all down.
That's great. I would love to see how this unfolds for you. Totally come back and let us know if you encounter these things, like any sinks or um if you get any more information. I think you're on a really cool path here.
For sure. Yeah, I'll keep you guys updated.
That's it for me. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it off to Jenny Lee.
Hey everybody. I have been, um, I've been feeling disconnected lately um, from everything, from my practice, from even from my kids, just disconnected in general from everything. Um, and I didn't know if anybody else had had the same kind of issues. It started probably a week ago, maybe more. Um, but yeah, I didn't know if it was a sensitivity issue to something or if it's just me or if anybody has any input on what to do about it. I'm kind of open to whatever.
Go ahead, Crystal. Oh, sorry. Actually, are you weighing in on this current topic or the last topic?
Actually, the last topic for Miss Jenny.
Okay. Um,
So, Miss Jenny, if you don't mind, I have a couple of questions for you. So, have you gotten any time to do something just for yourself? Like doing some TLC, right? Like escaping, doing something where you're reconnecting maybe with something that feels good to you?
I've been having like consistent fibromyalgia flares, so I haven't really felt like doing anything for me extra because pretty much all the spoons I have are being used up. So that's kind of part of the issue. But even normally, even with the fibromyalgia flares, I can really connect with what I need to connect with. But I just have not been able to lately. And I didn't know what was causing all the flares. It doesn't seem to be connected to anything. I've been staying on my diet. I've been, doing my somatic exercises, and it feels like the universe has decided to pull on every joint and muscle I have.
Oh no. Well, I'm sorry you're going through that. What helps me is doing something for myself even when I don't feel good because I'm going through my own personal issues as well. Like I have an ankle problem. I just had ankle surgery not too long ago. So I can kind of relate, it can be a struggle, but even when I don't feel good, I make myself do something and it made all the difference for me. And I know it's easier said than done, but even if it's just me walking to the park down the street and going to sit under a tree and bring a nice book with me and enjoy the fresh air and just have a moment or just meditate or just
Mm-hmm.
observe the nature around me, just the simple part of it. That's just kind of my input. I wish I had more, advice to give you on that. You're going to push through it and you're going to do great. You just got to find that what's going to make you smile, and you got this.
Yep. Just keep going.
I also saw that Renee has a weigh-in on my stream. So I'm gonna go ahead
Oh,
and go next. If you still want to weigh in, Renee.
I do.
Yay.
So, like, dream analysis is one of my most favorite things. And so I am taking a class right now, and in the class, um, we do what's called dream amplification. I'm not going to try to explain this because I am new to amplification and I won't explain it right, and I don't want anyone to get, my like half-ass, you know, explanation of it. But one thing I am going to say to Maya that I think could help her is that in part of the dream analysis at the very everybody was really encouraged. So if you have a dream and it kind of gets cut off at some point, or if it feels incomplete to you and there's more information out there for you, there's a technique called dreaming the dream onward, and everybody was really encouraged to do this in the class. And I'm going to read to you like just a little, oh, maybe I am, a little blurb about that, because I think it's really interesting and helpful. So, dreaming the dream onward. Jung created a technique that he called active imagination, which is sort of like daydreaming, but you hand over the control of the imagining to the dream itself. One way of using this is to begin with a dream image and then, in a comfortable meditative state, imagine what happens next. Dreaming the dream forward is another way of working with and amplifying unconscious material. So basically, what you do is you just basically sit and start thinking about the dream, and you're not asleep but you're daydreaming, and just let it go where it will. And a lot of times it is just like dreaming with your eyes open. And another thing we are doing is dream work with partners, but I won't get into that right now. But after I get done with the class, I'd love to talk to people about it because it is just, I'm loving it so much. It's just super interesting. And so many interesting things came up when we, as a group, did a dream amplification with one of our members. And so what started happening, which is pretty wild, is everybody like, and this class is, it's like an academic class about unicorns, but basically, when it's all said and done, we are trying to find out why all of us have a fixation on unicorns, and that it's so deep in our psyche, it's trying to communicate something to us. So that's part of it. And so we're getting into imagery and all this stuff, and dream imagery, but now I forgot where I was going with this, but but one of the major things is this dreaming the dream forward. So I just wanted to offer that to Maya as something that maybe she could play with a little bit and see if that is helpful. And that is what my weigh in is. And then I will, oh, you know what? I think oh, never mind. Okay. Yes, I'm trying to mute myself. Bye.
You're all good, Renee. Isabel, did you want to weigh in on the current subject, or are you changing the subject?
I wanted to weigh in on Jenny Lee's.
Okay, go for it.
Um, so Jenny, I feel you, and I say this because I have 4 autoimmune diseases, one of them being fibromyalgia, and I get to those spaces that you were talking about often. It sometimes feels like it lasts forever, like a bad flare up. What I've learned through the years, because I've been with this for a little over 25 years, and progressively it's gotten worse. And when I get to those spaces where mentally I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I'm disconnected, and all these negative thoughts come in, and I think I get depressed from also the fact that the loss of my active life or whatever's going on around me. I usually just, and I know this sounds selfish, but I don't care. And my family understands that. But I do nothing but rest and kind of put life on hold for me, because at that moment, all I want to do is just rest and be left alone, because of the bad flare-ups. And in that way, I kind of feel that I'm hugging myself, I'm comforting me, I'm giving myself the time that I need to heal for however long this flare up lasts. And sometimes I felt like doing nothing is the best thing, kind of just riding the wave until I start progressively feeling better, but not feeling bad that I'm not up and doing things. I have zero guilt over that, because at that moment, just taking care of myself, not even thinking about anything, just comforting my body and my spirit is what I've felt that works for me. But now that you've mentioned it, just know that you will always be in my thoughts, and I will be holding space for you and all others who are going through this. I know sometimes we feel like people don't understand because it is an invisible illness. No one sees it. And that's what I hate the most about it, because yeah, you can't see certain flare-ups. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I've recently been diagnosed with POTS to go with but then apparently they go together pretty often. So I've been kind of dealing with trying to separate in my head what's causing things. And I think that I'm overthinking it instead of just letting it be, well, this is what's wrong and this is what I need to do. I'm trying to put everything in categories. And I think that that's taking away from the healing process because I'm trying so hard. But I do kind of just withdraw, like you were saying, and try to heal. It's so hard with little kids. and they're not little, they're teenagers, but it's so hard with the kids because I feel guilty of not being involved enough in what they're doing. So that gives me a lot of guilt, and I think that may be what causes some of the disconnect is the guilt and the depression of that. I don't know if you feel the same way, that the depression makes you want to disconnect, and I didn't know if that was, common, or if it's just me, or if it's the universe, whatever.
No, I think people that have our condition go through those cycles, and I say this only because it's very difficult to live our lives feeling, yes, disconnected from our families and activities, but being so much pain that you
Mm-hmm.
can't really be doing things. And I'm sure, and I speak from also my experience with my children. They understand and they love me and they're there for me. And I'm sure your children are too. But it's just my personal opinion that if you take whatever days that you need to just to heal, and yes, not overthink it, you might bounce back sooner than if you are really stressed about, you know, making sense of it all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just to concentrate on the healing and let that happen instead of trying to heal a little bit and then go and do a thing and then heal a little bit and go and do a thing. I think it takes longer probably that
Mm-hmm,
I'm doing it that way.
for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabel.
Absolutely, love. I'm always here for you if you ever should need
Thank you.
anything. And I don't know who's next. I'm sorry.
Um,
You're fine. It's Alicia.
oh, Alicia.
Oh, if you still wanted to go, Alicia.
No, I'm okay. I think everything that was said was answered. Other people had better input than I did, so yeah.
That's okay. People do that all the time. I swear, Maria steals my thoughts sometimes and says them. Um, I do have a weigh-in myself. Um, so I also struggle with chronic pain. I have fibromyalgia, and that keeps me limited in the spoons that I have. I found that for a long time after my diagnosis, I was in a lot of pain. When I started doing my energy work, when I started, because I didn't really start out with magic, I kind of started in the area of like energy work, and Reiki and that sort. And what I found was focusing on the and this is just to preface, this is not saying that diagnoses aren't um important. They can give people a lot of relief and understanding what they're experiencing. But I found for me personally, when I was focused on the diagnosis and the symptoms and all the things that were uh essentially like being perpetuated, excuse me, we're being perpetuated by something a little bit deeper. Um, when I started digging into metaphysical anatomy and how energy can get stuck in different places of the body, and it can create pain. And also the stories that I would create around my pain in order to validate it would also be kind of keeping me in that space. I don't know if uh like that's just my experience. I'm not sure if that, is anybody else's. And what I found was that focusing on joy and things that are like feel good, like pleasure, were extremely hard for me. Um, but they were also medicinal when I was able to kind of seek out both situations and um, sensations and uh, stories that were more joyful or more pleasurable for me. Um, and not to say
I
not to like,
go ahead, Ocean.
okay, um, not to say that like you can just ignore it and like have it all go away just because you're telling yourself a different story. I would never invalidate your pain. But I know that for me, my pain was a lot of it was trying to tell me about my needs and how when I'm showing up for the people that I love, um, it's I don't enjoy doing it when I'm not at 100%, and therefore I'm not showing up in the ways that people enjoy about me. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to add that on too, that like you were talking about showing up for your kids and stuff. And I know that I also grew up with a mom with chronic pain, and to to her, joy was also something that was just not a priority. And I would have liked to see her um explore her own joy and what makes her happy too. So that's just my two
Mhm.
cents.
Um, you mentioned Reiki, and I have been very interested in that about healing. Um, I've heard a lot of people have really good luck with doing the Reiki for healing the flares, and maybe settling some, making it more of an even keel, um, with the pain orientation. And I've been wondering about that. Do you what what do you find the Reiki? Do you find it helpful in the autoimmune and the more invisible uh, issues that we all have?
Right, yes. I I really enjoyed learning about Reiki when I first learned about it. I did not pursue that path um, to the other levels
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that my own energy is actually what's doing the healing. I don't think I need the modality of Reiki in order to move my own energy. And I found that understanding those stuck places, and then understanding kind of a little bit how Reiki works. Um, because it's moving energy. I just don't need I personally don't feel the need to invoke a modality that I'm not culturally or like lineage wise like connected to, because it's not like when I started actually practicing witchcraft and started being encouraged to ask why more, I found that a lot of things were not like well explained. And I also found like by my teacher, and that's the thing, she was a great teacher. She explained things very well. But there's just things like there's like symbols and stuff and all these things that I thought I was being like initiated into a tradition when really it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like teaching me energy work. And I found that applying those principles to the way that my own energy moves worked much better for me than trying to invoke Reiki essentially. But I would highly recommend that you look into how Reiki works and then feel into your own energy. You can find YouTube
Mm-hmm.
videos on it. I know there's some practitioners here in Bright and Dark, um, and kind of do your own sort of like how we research like gods and goddesses. You can research your
Right.
body and the energy and stuff the same way. I
And
found that
see what
really
resonates for
empowering.
me. Mm-hmm. See what resonates for me as far as pulling that energy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Empowering you with your own healing is
Mm-hmm.
what I would suggest.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ocean.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Crystal.
So this is a totally different dream. Comment. I had a dream. I didn't know if anybody else might have some like input on it. I've never had a dream like this before. And just to put out there, I don't have children, so this was a very strange dream for me. But I had a dream that my boyfriend was holding a baby, but I also saw a woman that was kind of there but not there. She almost was like celestial, like a goddess or something. But she was smiling at him holding the baby, and I was in the room, and it felt like it was like a good thing that was happening, but I don't understand it. So that was my dream. So I didn't know if anybody had any input.
Go for it, Renee.
Oh, hey, this is kind of weighing in on what Crystal said. It's so funny because I feel like before I took this class, I would jump in and try to like help unpack it, but now I just really feel like people have so much personal symbolism that like I feel like everybody has the tools to kind of like unpack their own symbolism, and then not like it's not like, oh, I don't have anything to say. It's more just like I think there's so much you can learn from your own dreams, and I've for so long struggled with that myself, like um and then a lot of times I would have to have um repeated dreams with some of the same symbols for it to become apparent to me what those represented. And then also I have some like personal dream symbols, like I still have not figured out what they're all about, but yeah, so I don't really have any insight into what um your dream is about, but I think again, like journaling, just really paying attention over like the next few days and the next few dreams um could be really cool, especially if something kind of resurfaces again. And yeah, uh sorry, I that probably wasn't helpful at all, but anyway, just thinking of you, Crystal. Good luck with that. And I mean, it sounds cool, and dreams are always cool, and I'm sure there is something in there that you can like ferret out of there. So okay, I'm gonna mute.
Go ahead, Jenny Lee.
Well, kind of like what Renee was saying, everybody's dreams have personal, there's personal symbols in those dreams. But for me, a goddess and an infant would symbolize a new beginning or a gift of a new start, that kind of thing. But that's just what my personal beliefs would
You're
be.
watching your daddy. Oops. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
So, like Renee said, everybody's different, and everybody has different ideology and different symbolism, will mean different things to them. But just as a outside observer, I would say a new beginning or a gift of a new something. That infant could be a new gifting from this particular goddess, whether it's a goddess you work with, or it's just a goddess who picked you out. Um, to me, the infant would symbolize something new. So that's all I got. just a puppy notation. That dark striped derriere in the midst of all those speckles is so cute.
That's little Jasper. I've been watching him. I've been eyeing that one, that little guy.
Yeah, he's the one that I am drawn to every time I see him. He's just so unique looking.
We still have an hour and 15 minutes. If there's anything witchy on anybody's mind, I can tell you guys about yesterday. I had a witchy day yesterday. Um, oh, go ahead, Renee. I'll let you go first.
Oh, Ocean, if you have something more important. I was gonna say, do you want to talk, Ocean?
No, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, mine's minor, but it's still pretty fun, I think. So I started also going to a local tarot group here. And the woman that leads it is just so thoughtful, and she really, I mean, we're also in the same writers group. So in the writers group, I just know how much time she spends working on the tarot group, and just kind of the questions that we're kind of exploring for ourselves. And so we've just kind of been going through the major arcana. Um, and It was funny because we did the high priestess, and or we were supposed to, but every time someone said high priestess, I just heard empress, and so I'm like, oh, I wonder what that's all about. But it was kind of funny. But so I don't know, so I've got like tarot on my mind, and fun experiences with other people, and just how fun it is to just kind of sit down with a little like brain trust, and just see what everybody pulls. And what else is really wild is when a bunch of people all pull the same card, because we all bring our own deck. So that's really fun too. But I was just gonna, if we just needed a topic, just say like, hey, is anybody having any good fun tarot experiences lately? That's mine. Like I said, still trying to figure out why everyone said high priestess 1 million times, and I was reading it and I still use the empress as like, you know. Oh, I had another thing I wanted to tell everybody that I was kind of excited about, which is um, in another one of my local groups, we were kind of talking about tarot cards and how we don't want to really refer to things as feminine or masculine, because the binary is outdated, and it just, so we were trying to think of a good substitute for that. And so we were thinking maybe like yin and yang. But also in the class I'm taking right now, this exact same thing came up. And what we kind of agreed on in that class was using like anima and animus. And I love that too, because that actually puts like a whole extra layer into everything. So those are my witchy things from this last week. Things I learned, things I'm excited about. And so uh, related to nothing except me, but I just wanted to share with you guys. So I'm going to hop off now.
I love the idea of anima and animus. That is so awesome. Um, I definitely struggle with that too. I really like a tarot deck that I was suggested to me by another trans person that kind of takes the gender um, out of it. It's called oh, I'm blanking on the name. The Numinous Tarot. I'll put that word in the chat in case anybody wants to look it up. The artist who made it is also trans. It's race inclusive. It's differently abled inclusive. It's non-binary, and I find that it's like the closest thing that I've found to like connection based tarot. Um, highly
That's
recommend
cool,
that.
Ocean. That's fun.
Oh my
It is,
gosh.
it's so cool when you do find like a deck that you totally vibe with.
Right? I had to get that deck. It was actually the deck that I got a reading at the first autumnal convergence from, and I just fell in love with it. And then I went to that same witch's shop and I saw it there and I was like, oh, I have to get it. Like this is just, and that was actually the second year. But also wanted to weigh in on something else too.
Oh, I was, if real quick, I was just gonna, I think I mentioned this online too, but I would never in a million years think like a kind of cutesy deck, um, which is the Cozy Witch Tarot. That is like my number one tarot deck right now, and I love it so much. And I never in a million years like would have thought that would be like a deck for me. But it's super cute if anyone wants to check it out. Sorry, I didn't. I thought I was on topic, Ocean. I'm muting.
You totally are on topic. Absolutely. If you want to drop a link to that tarot deck in the chat, I'm sure other people would love to look at it. It sounds super cute. I oh, go ahead, Alicia. Get it.
Oh, so just fun. I literally just had my hummingbird show up. Like I normally don't get them until like May, and I just had the first hummingbird show up. I was just sitting out here and I heard this hum, and I'm like, no way. I don't know. I'm excited. I was like, I'm seeing so many things showing up earlier than I've ever had them before. Like the specific bees are coming out, like the local bees, not the honey bees, but like specific ground bees are showing up earlier. And I just was outside, and just as you guys were talking, I heard this hum, and I turned around, and people have been posting like throughout the state when hummingbirds are showing up as they're coming through. And so I put my feeder out, just thinking, oh well, maybe in another couple weeks. And sure enough, here was my first black chin hummingbird. So sorry, I'm just excited. I decided to throw that out there.
I'm gonna reiterate what Wit said in the chat because I think we all need to hear this. You are allowed to take up space, and we love it when you do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Crystal.
So, talking about things to be excited, I've gotten a lot of new plants and I've been growing a lot of new ones, and I've just planted a lot today. So, I'm pretty excited about that. Silly enough. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I'll go ahead and tell you guys about my day tomorrow. I mean yesterday. Oh my gosh, tomorrow. Time doesn't matter. It's fine. Um, I was able to go to the shop yesterday, and the shop master, Kim, had a really amazing bonfire. Um, she even let me use a little bit of one of the scraps of release paper to do a release ritual. And we did it in this space where there's like she has this little like waterfall and pond, and the pond was just filled with bees taking a drink. Like there was just so many bees coming in, and she has these cool little plants that are like growing into the pond so that the bees can rest on the roots and like have a drink and not drown, you know? And that is exactly like the energy that encompassed yesterday for me. I got to hang out with a couple of witches and be in a community space. And it felt like getting a drink of water after a long journey. Like it was just that feeling of like new beginnings and renewal, replenishment, rejuvenation. Um, Go ahead, Renee. That's really all I wanted to say.
Ooh, that just sounds so fun and cool. And I'm not trying to drag Kim into the conversation, but I've been meaning to say, it's spring here, and in my yard I have a bunch of trees that are down, that got blown down by the wind. And so I've got a ton of this stuff called old man's beard, which is a green furry lichen. We used to call it Yeti fur when I was a kid, but it's like a traditional indigenous like supplement, because it has a lot of vitamin C in it. But it's one of those things you're not supposed to pick it off the trees because it takes forever to grow. But if it like blows down or if the trees are down, um, so I don't know, Kim, if that's an ingredient you're interested in, let me know and I'll gather up a bunch of it, because it seems like it's a shame to let it go to waste. I don't know what it's particularly like, if it has any kind of magical connection, but it's kind of a cool Alaskan thing. So um I was just gonna put that out there. Okay, bye.
We have that here too, and I just harvested some of it for some stuff.
Well, there
But I
we
will
go.
totally take more. I will totally take
Okay.
more because this is from
Okay.
Alaska and you have harvested it. So
Yes, and I'll be special
do it.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
actually,
go.
yeah. Okay, cool. Again, sorry to call you out and drag you in the conversation, but yeah, while you're
Don't
right,
be sorry.
while you're on the
Don't be sorry.
line,
Don't be
can I,
sorry.
okay. It's hard for me. While you're on the line, can you would you mind telling us what, if there is like a good magical use for it, or what, is that putting you on the spot?
I would have to look it up because I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but let me go look
No,
again
no,
real quick.
you don't have to. It's just there's just some things that when I see them I'm like, that's got to be a magic ingredient, even though I don't know what it is. No,
Yeah,
you
I
don't
know
have
you
to
can
look
make a
it up.
tea, you can make a tea out of it as well. Like,
Yeah.
so
Okay. I'll hop off.
Go for it, Wit.
Um, Renee, I would like to ask you of, do you have any inclinations of what it could be used for? Like, what is your, like, not herbally, because herbally we always want to do research for herbal stuff. But, if it's jumping out at you of, I agree, every time I see something like that, I'm like, okay, there's got to be something magical about that. I could use that for something. But do you have any inclinations of like what it would mean for you to use it in, like a spellcraft or something?
Yeah, so like I said, everyone here calls it old man's beard, and it does look like a green like beard. It's very um but when I was a kid, I had it, we called it Yeti fur, and I had it in my head because it grew up kind of high in the trees, that it was like if like a Yeti was walking by, would get some fur snagged in the tree. And that's why it was there, and no one had a good explanation for me like what it was, so I just like hung on to that. So I mean, I would feel like myself magically, I would see it as like something related to monsters and creatures. Then again, I can always bring it back to monsters and creatures personally, because that's kind of my thing. Um but yeah, I mean, I would definitely, I my mental association is with a Yeti, right or wrong. That's just where I'm at. So, but thanks for asking, Wit, because it's super fun to think about that kind of stuff.
I really love that. I feel like that, kind of brings in that like magical fantasy like piece of that too of, I've tried to really learn on kind of lean on what my intuition says about things. Again, as long as I'm not putting it on my skin or ingesting it, of, like there's the like quote unquote traditional correspondence, but also um, my intuition and what my thoughts are on it and what is kind of jumps out to me at first, like that will usually trump what like that traditional correspondence is too.
Yeah, that's super super fun. Yeah, it is wild when you like if you really just sit down and think about it, how many I mean, I think we probably start that all up when we're a kid, you know, and if there's not an answer, we just make up the answer. And I guess like I've never thought about it before, but yeah, I guess I'm still hanging on to all my little internal explanations, which is kind of fun too.
I love that. And also working through your social conditioning to accept it as well too, you know. I feel like that's always a fun shadow
Yeah,
work.
I never even
I'm
thought of that,
here.
but yeah, wit.
All right. And then I'm gonna guess for traditional correspondence, we could go over to Kim now.
You sure the heck can. But I mean, it's, it connects all of like living beings, because it's out there and it's just, weaving its stuff. So you can like drawing strength and like grounding and like protection, stuff like that, and using it as like a conduit. So there's some things.
Is it wait, the full moon's in a couple of nights, isn't it? On the 23rd?
I don't
Because I
know.
could go, I think I can go, I'll do a little full moon ceremony and collect some for you, Kim.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay. Bye.
I just wanted to weave those together and ask you, Renee, do you think that maybe a Yeti is a guardian for you?
Yes. Okay. So here's why. Because still to this day, one of my most favorite things of all time is the Rankin Bass Rudolph. Like it's not it's puppetry, you know. And so that Yeti, like Yetis have never been scary to me. They're like Bumble, right? So they're like a big furry, fun, like just someone who could pick you up and hold you like a baby, you know? Um, but it's kind of funny too, because my mom and I were talking about like my monster fixation because in my unicorn class, everybody is trying to like figure out their origin story and when they became obsessed with unicorns. And like I was talking to my mom, and like we can't even think of a time, like even when I was a toddler, that it wasn't like a thing, which is interesting. But yeah, like I'm a total like okay, you guys, now I'm getting in the weeds, but I am such a like Bigfoot fanatic. I have a spreadsheet that I made of all the different kinds of Bigfoot that are in Alaska because there's many different kinds. And also I collect um Bigfoot sightings from grumpy old men and construction workers. I don't do anything with them other than put them in the mental archive, but and I know someone that has seen one. And it is not uncommon in Alaska, and it is especially not uncommon for indigenous people of Alaska, and they don't have any trouble believing in it. One last thing, in Palmer, Alaska, there is a Bigfoot museum, and it's so fun. It's the best. They not only have like Bigfoot recordings that you can listen to because the owner is a Bigfooter, but they also it's full of vintage Halloween masks and vintage guitars. So it's basically like the best store that's ever existed. But it's called the Bigfoot Gallery, and I make sure everyone that comes to visit gets to go check it out. So sorry, I just went Bigfoot crazy. But yes, I definitely have Bigfoot in my heart, a very special place. And yes, I will watch any documentary, so I can tell anyone the good ones from the sucky ones if anyone is interested. And I will mute myself.
Go ahead, Isabel.
Okay, so this is not a weigh-in on that topic, and I still feel a little apprehensive about saying this because, again, always the fear of being judged on something that has zero explanations. So on Thursday, I went to go get my infusion for, well, Jenny Lee knows we get infusions for autoimmune, and I sit there for about 5 hours. the point is that it's a little room and there's about 7 other patients. And I'm reading my book and I hear a whisper on my right ear, and it called out my name. So immediately I looked to my right side, thinking that, well, the patient next to me doesn't know me, so she wouldn't know my name, but she was asleep. And I was just so perplexed by that I got up and went to the restroom and threw water on me because I know what I heard. I was fully awake. I'm reading my book. And I thought, okay, so who whispered? And it was a very wispy voice, like female. It was a female voice. And I just can't make heads and tails out of that. And it was just that once, but it was enough to bother me up until now, I guess, because I haven't told anyone because, well, first, I don't have anyone else that would believe or not judge me. But yeah, so that's it. I don't know if anybody has any weigh-ins on that. What did I experience? To the best of my knowledge, I'm not clinically crazy. My family would say that I am, but clinically I'm not. I don't hear voices or any as such. So if anybody has anything, I would love to hear it. That's about it.
Crystal, do you have a weigh-in on the current subject, or are you changing the subject?
Current subject.
Get it.
All right. Isabella, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Oh,
Have
absolutely.
you had any dreams or anything that might be related to it, or is this like the very first time you've ever experienced this, like at all? Like, have you ever had like someone call your name or have a feeling of someone close to you?
I generally have very meaningful dreams, but not late, like not lately, and I've never heard anyone call my name.
Well, and what it could be is someone trying to contact you. There's, always that possibility that you told someone, or possibility of even, trying to warn you. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to why someone would call your name, or it could even just be a spirit that wanted your attention because they realized you can see them. And, a lot of times that's what it is that once they recognize you can see them, it makes a huge difference. And I apologize for the squawking parrots in the background. Apparently they're having a moment right now. Everybody wants to add their 50 cents. Um, but that's just like my opinion. If you continue hearing it, maybe next time try to engage, right? It's because if it's trying to get your attention, we want to tell you something. Or there's a possibility that it's happy that it's been recognized, right? Because not everybody will be open to that side to be able to see, or hear them from the other side, beyond the veil.
That makes a lot of sense.
I hope that helps. And that's just from personal experiences with stuff like that. And I'm not clinically insane, so I feel you. But that's been my personal experience.
Thank you for that.
My
For sure.
pleasure.
I'm gonna go ahead and weigh it next. Um, if you're still up for weigh-ins.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I always am. Thank you for
Awesome.
asking. Yeah.
Of course. So I was curious, maybe have you been asking your guides for confirmation of their either existence or their involvement in your life lately?
No, I have not.
have you been communicating with your guides at all? Is that something that is still uncertain for you?
No, the last time I did, and I usually do this during the month of October for, um, yeah, Dia de los Muertos, because I do talk to my grandmother, but usually it's then I really talk to them. And here and there, I speak to my grandmother. Um, but no, not really, not anyone else.
I've heard Jen Marie talking about how some people have an internal guidance system and an external guidance system. And I'm so curious if that's what you're experiencing. So obviously I can't tell you, about your experience. I am of the mind that the answers that you need are within yourself. Um, but I did want to weigh in on the word crazy as well. I think
Okay.
that's one that it gets a lot of weight in this community. I think there's other words too that I also hear a lot. And it's I don't think crazy exists. I think that that's a word that is utilized to essentially stop communication because somebody else isn't understanding. I think it's used to oppress people who are more spiritually inclined and to experience their senses, experience the like have extra sensory experiences. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to get at. Because a lot of us who are naturally inclined to extrasensory experiences, um, because there's a lot of different skills you can go and take a class for and get certified in. And I know that there's also like a lot of witches who teach about their skills and stuff, but in the mainstream, you're not going to find a spiritual teacher most of the time. You're not going to find somebody who is able to help you understand kind of I just keep wanting to say extrasensory experiences because that's really what it feels like for me. So I would ask you maybe what your ears um mean to you, like spiritually, if you experience any other like energy um type occurrences like by hearing them. And I would totally explore that sense with of course knowing that you're safe and can have boundaries with anything that you're um experiencing or wanting to connect with. Um, but I think that's really cool, actually. That might not be a popular opinion, but I think it's neat that you heard your name. I can kind of picture it being like a guide, being like, Isabel, I'm here. Um, so maybe not, it might not be as unsafe as it may feel, but your feelings are also valid. Um, okay, those are my thoughts. Go ahead, Wit.
Can I answer to that? I'm sorry.
Oh
Before I
yeah,
move on.
absolutely.
Sorry, wait, I won't take long. Um, so I hear you with the word crazy, and it felt wrong saying it, but and it does come from maybe me being told that. But I had to and I know it's just that some things that are so out there that have no explanation. Um, I'm always afraid of saying them out loud. And so I guess it comes from from fear, from a place of fear. But I would never in any way, and not that you said this, but I would never want to offend anyone. I just was speaking for like that I know of. I haven't lost all of my marbles. But and it's funny that you said if I've felt or heard anything before. I always have, but it was more in the way of maybe a door slamming when there's no wind, or little things that happen that have zero explanation. Um, or the sensation of someone like passing me by, or something very cold, or I've always felt there's always been little things, some not in most of them I'm afraid of, I think. But this one wasn't. It didn't make me feel scared. The voice was very wispy and calming, so I wasn't afraid. And I don't know how to explore that, to tell you the truth. I've bought some books, but they were really bland. They didn't teach me anything that I didn't know. So no, I don't know how to explore it, or I haven't found. In fact, I'm now just bringing it up to the group. Like here and there, I bring things up, but yeah, I wouldn't
Absolutely.
know. So yeah,
I
thank you.
I would 100% advise you to look into clairaudience and clairsentience.
Intense. Okay,
I can put those in the chat too, but I'm gonna go ahead
thank
and
you.
let Whit weigh in.
All right, so bear with me because I've got like pinged for a few things here. My little extra weigh in right now is what does it feel like if I said, what if you just, because I'm assuming that you're going to need to go back and get the infusions again.
I do every 3 weeks.
Okay. What if you just sat with it and the next time that you're in there, just left yourself open to it, and not overthink it, and just see if it happens again, see what feelings come up. Um, I feel like a lot of times we are wanting to like, and I'm saying this from personal experience. When I say we, I really mean me too. Like I need to I'll dive into all this research. I need to figure out all of these things I need to figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. Where sometimes what we need to do is just sit with it as well too. Especially because you're saying like you didn't have any fear, and it was almost seems like potentially like a comforting kind of voice too. Like being open to the experiences coming out or like happening in the time that they happen, and like not forcing them, and um just being open to it happening again or whatever needs to happen in the moment for it to happen.
Yeah, I can do that, absolutely.
Yeah, because I think I was also thinking like, oh, I wonder what you're saying you were reading a book too. Like, was it something that was trying to call your attention to something you were reading in the book, or a feeling that you were having, or it could be so many different things that just like it almost feels like you might not have enough data right now to be able to say this is what it was. And so just kind of going with more of like that, like open gratitude, with gratitude and an open heart and an open mind to things. Um, and just kind of seeing what that feels like at the next infusion then.
I didn't make the connection, but there could be something there. So I was reading, the title is Witch, Unleashed, Untamed, Unapologetic by Lisa Lister. So maybe something in there that I needed to, yeah, pay attention. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you, Whit.
you're welcome. I've kind of lost my other thread of the but Isabella, I heard when you talked about like when you said, I'm not clinically crazy. Like I heard some pain behind that. Um and you know, that feeling. Like I just kind of want to sit with you and say that I see you with that feeling of, man, someone's gonna think that I'm crazy. And I can't say anything. I gotta like bury, you know, like I don't know how many times that I felt over my lifetime, and I'm still actively deconstructing. That I've been told I'm crazy, or that you know, oh, you're just making this up for attention, or you know, you didn't actually hear your name, or you didn't actually do this or that, you know, and I understand that feeling, and I just want to say that I see you with that. Um, and just holding space for that feeling as well too.
Thank you. That struck a chord. Thank you.
Yeah, I think probably everyone on here has felt that too. Everyone in this community has felt that, and so we see you with that, you know. It's a scary place to be, and just also thank you for sharing this with us. Like, thank you for being willing to be vulnerable with us and giving us the space to support you and be here for you.
I think if anything, this group has taught me to have um, not to feel alone, and it has taught me to trust people again, which is a big deal.
Yeah, it's tough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, turning it over to you, Petra.
What am I doing? So this is just a weigh-in for you, Isabella. Sorry, I'm like kind of crampy right now, so you're all gonna just like see me at like my brain is very slow, which is not the norm here. So you'll get to just see like what is this like when Petra is like trying to find words. What I wanted, as someone who has like worked in healthcare and has like certified people as like, you know, not mentally well enough to be safe on their own or needing to be committed or things like that. I always, you know, I think that the fear and the kind of terror around those things is very normal, because having your like autonomy and agency and like freedom taken away from you is really, really scary. I think that there's a lot of intergenerational stuff that can get kicked up with that, depending on like what has happened in our familial lines, and like we might never know about that stuff, or maybe there's more adjacent stuff like we've had like aunts or uncles or people, you know, there's a book by, what's her name, Tanya Lerman, that talks about kind of like it's called, I think it's called Of Two Minds, or something like that, but it talks about like the approaches to psychosis in the Western medical model versus in like non-Western cultures, and basically like the understanding of like sometimes these breaks with reality that we have are not pathological, but they are in fact spiritual. I think that, you know, I hold many opinions on this as someone who's seen people who are so floridly psychotic that they like could not function, right? Where it's like they do need support because whatever is happening to them is putting them in danger, you know, like people, I've had patients that were like thought they could fly, or thought, you know, they could really, really hurt themselves. And so you have to kind of, I have had to make peace with balancing, like, ultimately, sometimes you do things that are not within the system that we have, that are take away people's rights and autonomy because you don't have a better option. I don't love it. I don't like it. It's not something that I like have a lot of pride in for myself, but I also know that like I've seen people where I'm like, if you left this place right now, I think you would end your life by accident. And the one defining feature, because like, you know, whenever we talk about psychosis or a break with reality is essentially what psychosis is. It's important to think about like, you know, often people who experience these things, like they might not find them distressing. Like that's really a hallmark of schizophrenia, is that people don't find it distressing. They're like, they're having these experiences and they're like, it doesn't phase them, right? Your brain is having this kind of dopamine endorphin storm, and so you're slowly being unhinged from reality. And as someone who like, this is a little sensitive for me, but like as someone who pharmacologically was on medications that did that to me slowly over time, and I experienced what that was like, which was really bizarre. And I couldn't tell what was happening because it was happening so slowly. There are kind of hallmarks of like, this is probably not mental illness. Like, you know, if you're able to still connect with reality, you're like feeding yourself, you're eating food, you're doing all your regular stuff, but you're having these brief experiences, like the likelihood that that is like mental, like I don't want to say mental health related, because my autistic, very specific brain is like, that's not exactly how this works. But the likelihood that that's related to schizophrenia is like low. The other piece of that is that, you know, if you're on new medications, or you're having, you know, like treatments, supplements, things like that, it's always important to go to your doctor and be like, hey, this weird thing happened. Could this be a side effect of whatever we're doing? Because sometimes that happens. And, you know, I think that it's always okay to like rule out the mundane, so that you can kind of, for me, like self-trust and faith and things like this are built over time by ruling in and ruling out things, right? Like by being like, it's not this, I've checked, right? And so what else could it be? And I know that that can be scary, going to a healthcare provider and admitting things like that. I think also, to be clear, like what you're experiencing is very brief, and so it would be like, if you're getting like, it's not uncommon if people are getting chemotherapy or they're getting other things, that like sometimes there's just random stuff that happens. The other piece of context I think that's really important is that like, you know, under the umbrella of trauma and like complex trauma, these things happen not infrequently for people. And I think that they're more better explained by either like spiritual phenomenon, or by like, sometimes repressed parts of ourselves try to pop up in different scenarios, because trauma has most people who experience complex trauma, especially like in any developmental capacity. So that means like if you experience any type of trauma, which most of us did between the ages of 0 to 7, and that can be anywhere from like, my mom went back to work too early to like really horrific stuff, and really violent stuff, that it causes our psyche to fragment and something called structural dissociation to happen. So I had this and didn't know it and functioned in my life like I thought I was fine. Had internal rules for my internal world that I was not aware of until I was on that medication, and then came off of it, and then had to like deal with like, I feel 9 things about this and they also all feel very different. And it wasn't like DID where I was like, I have alters and I'm a completely different person. It was like, I'm having experiences that link to different either emotional states, different parts of my body, or different ages, and holding multiple truths at the same time. And if I hadn't had like the kind of psych background and the academic background, I would have probably thought I was crazy. but I was like, this, I know that I'm rooted in reality. Like, I know what's real. I'm acutely aware and acutely present. So what else is going on? And then on top of that, I was having spiritual experiences, and those feel very different for me. So I can only kind of talk from like my understanding, my perspective, and the things that I've learned and known. And my desire in sharing all these things is to kind of like normalize things and also give you some reassurance, as like and also to say that like Western medicine is not the metric for health or well-being. Our society is profoundly sick, and medicine is rooted in some very like racist, white supremacist, like patriarchal, abusive, oppressive, domination based ideologies, right? And so it's important, like things can be useful. Like I'm not someone who's like, don't go to medicine for anything. I'm just like, go do your research, ask for help, but always trust your gut above anything else. And to do that check of like, does this actually, or is there something else? Because, you know, that's why we have this group. You bring something up and then people can be like, hey, here's my experience, here's my experience. Like, and you can see like, oh, like there's so many different ways of looking at this thing that's in front of me, and it gives more space, right? Whereas I feel like medicine is like, this is the way to be human, which is not the purpose of medicine. Like it started in like the first surgeons were barbers, right? Like this is not a discipline that started out with healing in mind. It was something that started out with like, oh, we'll just cut that off, we'll just take that out, we'll just remove the thing. And that for lack of a better word, like ethos or kind of like ideology, it permeates through, right? It's more often about the removal of symptoms, the removal of things, the like stop the thing, make the thing stop, whatever, which is like, that's great if you have appendicitis. Excellent. Like take the antibiotics, get the appendix out, like don't die. Like these are important things. But like when we're talking about something, as someone who's taken both a psychology degree and a physiology degree and also a medical degree, and like when I tell you that medicine is ill-equipped to deal with the complexities of human mental health, I'm not kidding. Like it's, you know, and the system at large, I don't like this because it feels like a cop-out, but like is doing the best it can, like the people I would say are doing the best they can with the tools that they have in the system that we have. And so I always feel like it's important to like set expectations and be like, this stuff is not to heal me, it's to remove the symptoms. Is that what I want? Is that like, is this thing that I'm experiencing so distressing because I think that people will think I'm crazy and they'll want to commit me, or like all these underlying very valid, very reasonable fears, but things that might not actually happen? Or am I not able to like feed myself, like clothe myself, do my like daily activities of living, go to work, do the things that I need to do to function under the capitalism as a system? And do I need to have some temporizing medication to stop that while I figure out what the heck is going on, you know, or while I get myself to a safer place? Like, I just want to be careful with that, because I'm not someone who's like, don't ever see like obviously please see doctors when you, like anytime you think you need to see a doctor, just do that. But like know what, I think it's always important to know like what the scope of medicine is, and I think our society looks at medicine to tell us what's normal, and that is not medicine's job. Like it cannot do that. Being human is far too complex there, and there's not nearly enough like humanities, social sciences, psychology, any of those things that are, as someone who's gone through medical training, like we do not learn those things. We learn how to like do these very prescriptive directive plans and put people in like boxes, and that doesn't allow for like the nuance of someone's humanity, and also like cultural experiences, other things. Like there's tons of things that medicine would classify as like, this indigenous practice is absolutely like is psychosis, and it's like, it's not though, you know, like it's the thing is that co-regulation and culture and support and all these things are missing because culture has been stolen from people. And so that's the other piece that I would say in this is like, I don't entirely know your cultural background, but it might be worthwhile if you have safe people in your life to explore that with, or you feel safe like doing some research at the library or online about what mediumship or hearing voices or things meant in your like ancestry. I don't have like clear like ways to be like, this is exactly how you do this, but I think sometimes that can be helpful, you know, because I'm going to be really honest. Most of the spiritual experiences that I've had in the past like 3 years, if I was like, went to a psychiatrist and was like, yeah, I had a conversation with the Morgan, they'd be like, you're absolutely banana pants. But then I'm like, I'm fully not. I know this. Like, you know, I'm like, I'm fully present. I know how I'm living my whole life. I'm doing all these things. And that is like a supplemental experience that I've had that medicine is not equipped to categorize, right, in any kind of capacity, other than something to be like, oh, that's abnormal, we need to take that away from you. But really, the most important question with mental health is this harmful? Like, is this person hurting themselves, or are they hurting other people? And if those things are not met, then like there's a lot of stuff that it's just like, like, I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to like validate those things and bring some like context into stuff, because I think that this stuff can be really scary, and understandably so, because they used to lock people up for stuff like this, and they still do sometimes. So that is all I have to say. I don't know who's next.
Next is Renee.
Oh boy. I just, first of all, just want to say I am just always completely blown away by what Petra says. Like, I feel like I need a minute to digest it. But actually, kind of piggybacking on a little bit of what she said, what I would recommend, Isabel, is if you just want to feel like you're not alone. I don't know if you've ever read any books or heard of Oliver Sacks, but he's like a neurologist and a neurobiologist, and he has a couple of books, one in particular called Hallucinations. So these are books, he studies people that have, you know, like out of the ordinary experiences. So he's, you know, basically saying, you know, like this stuff happens all the time, but people don't talk about it. And specifically, he has he's very interested in any kind of like auditory phenomenon. And so he talks about how, you know, in like the Victorian times, like they're, and I'm gonna like, I'm just kind of paraphrasing and using what's in my mental archives, but there was, someone did an interview and it was like quite common for people to hear voices, right? It hasn't been until very recent modern times that if you tell people you hear voices, they're like automatically going to assume you are severely mentally ill, probably schizophrenic, and, you know, have a very bad reaction to that. Whereas, like, if you read Oliver Sacks, he kind of like lets you know how common a lot of this stuff actually is, and that there's a lot of people experiencing the same things. And but he doesn't take away the magical quality of things either. He's super amazing, fantastic. But he has a few books. He has I think I've read most of them, but Hallucinations in particular is a really useful book for someone that experiences, you know, the world a little differently, including myself, which I think it's no secret about the chatter. But I've also had people speak that I've spoken with about hearing the chatter that are really like alarmed by it when it happens to them or like their child's experiencing it. And so, I mean, I don't know. This is what I say. It's like if the voices aren't telling you to do bad things, if they're not telling you to do stuff and you're not listening, then it's fine. There's tons of us that have it happen all the time. Um, and it is, I used to be very scared by it and I felt like it was something happening to me. But now, personally, I'm just leaning into it really hard. And I'm excited about it. So I don't know, Isabel, I don't know, like, I would just say from my personal experience, nothing, I feel like nothing can hurt you and there's nothing to be afraid of and just maybe things to learn. But I totally get feeling afraid because I've like spent so much of my life in that spot. So I just I'm holding the space for you and I just want I want a good outcome for you in this and I 100% believe that that is where this is going for you. So I'm going to mute myself now.
Go ahead, Jenny Lee.
Okay, so with the infusions, I don't know what kind of infusions you're getting. But the ketamine infusions, one of them, one of the side effects is hallucinations. I'm speaking from a veterinary standpoint because I've not done the infusions. I've talked about it with my doctor, but we don't feel I'm there yet. So I know from a veterinary standpoint that that particular drug can cause hallucinations, but also just the physical act of sitting through an infusion relaxes your body to a point where you're almost in a trance, or it can. You can be more susceptible to hearing things that you wouldn't normally hear. You're paying more attention to things you don't normally pay attention to, especially if you're also reading. You can split your attention and not realize that you're hearing those guides that are trying to get your attention, or if an altered spirit is trying to get your attention or something like that. So there's all kinds of perfectly normal explanations for hearing voices during an infusion. I know a friend of mine, when she does her chemotherapy, she is not normally one for audio clairvoyance. She occasionally will see things and feel things, but not ever hear anything. When she does her chemotherapy, she can hear all kinds of things around her. People, voices, things that are happening that aren't actually happening, papers being rustled that nothing's happening. This room where they do the chemotherapy used to be used for check-ins and check-outs and things like that. And so, you know, she's become aware of these leftover audiences because she is not distracted by anything. She is almost in a meditative trance going through the uh, chemotherapy. So, you know, there's a lot of different reasons that I would say, hey, I think you're really hearing that. Absolutely hearing that, whether it's just for you or whether it, you know, it's something that you need to explore for outward assistance. So yeah, I would definitely jack into it and try to you know, discover more about it, because it doesn't sound like it was um obscene or not friendly in any way. So I would definitely try to explore that more. That's all I have.
Can I answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. To both Petra and Jenny. I'm very actually I was always very fully aware of what my medications can do to me, because upon taking them so many years ago, I did my research. I didn't like any of what I read. And I did take myself off of meds for 2 years, almost 2 years, and it didn't go well for me. So I needed to go back on them. Um, they really haven't changed any of my meds or the chemo part of it. It's been the same for, I would say, for the better of the last 15 years. But again, I've never experienced, and I don't discount that medications can alter your state of mind at any point. It doesn't have to be, yeah, since the beginning. And I agree with you, Petra, that it is always better to discount the logical part, because in fact, that's what I've done when I've heard something else and I thought, no, it was this, and I have to find a logical explanation, because I will not accept that I heard something just for hearing it. And then when I realized that, okay, all the checks have been marked, then I just leave it at that. But I just wanted to thank everybody for their input, each one of you. So just thank you, and know that I am taking in, and I did write the authors just so that I can take a look and see another side of things. So yeah, thank you.
Go for it, Petra.
I just want, yeah, I just have a change of subject. I wanted to say also, like, thanks as well for like giving us feedback. I think that's really important, because this is like a conversation, not just like us being like, blah. Like, I did earlier, I was way too crampy, and I was like, this will come out so spicy, and I was like, this is not how I want to say this, but it's hard when you're in pain, right? Or like, I can't, especially being autistic, I'm like, I can't mask this. It just like hurt way too much. But I did want to say just about earlier with reference to like the Reiki stuff. I don't know if anybody, or I think I've said this before, but it's okay. That I am trained as a Reiki master. So that means I have done all of my attunements, and I've done all the ways to like to even to the point where I can attune other people. And so if anyone ever wants to, like, I'm just want to be mindful of the time, but it's like, if we ever want to talk about energy work stuff, when I'm not having raging cramps, I am super open to doing that. And if anybody in here, wants to be like, what is it like? Or like wants to experience it with someone that, like, I don't do energy, like I don't like sell and advertise energy work out in the world, because it's just like not my deal. I do it for friends and people who I know, because for me it's more of like an act of like co-regulation and of service, that kind of a thing. And even I'm like, Alicia, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I did a session for Alicia. So if she ever wants to volunteer to like have people talk to her, I will leave that in her court. She's not obligated whatsoever, just by me bringing it up. But yeah, I just I think that it can have a lot. It can be, energy work can be quite potent, and it can also be, people can find it quite expensive if you're going to a practitioner. So there are other ways, like if people are like, I don't want to get attuned, I want to like, but I really feel a burning curiosity about this. There are people who do like Reiki sessions on YouTube, and I think that they're just as helpful. Like, I think if you resonate with people, then then there's that. That's how I first started doing it, when I first got involved with it. And it's something that I learned to do for myself, and I use as a regulation tool, and I do kind of on a daily basis. And I'm I think that everybody, like what Ocean was saying about like it not working for them, like I think that that also makes sense. Like I think you have to kind of check into your own shit. And there's a lot of unethical practitioners out there. I'm going to be really honest. Like, so there's a lot of ways to have like negative experiences with people, because there are a lot of people that are just kind of like doing it as kind of a capitalist money grab type of a thing. And I don't stand beside that. And for me as a practitioner, like I have made it an ethical thing for me of like, even though I don't do sessions on other people very often, I do like, because it's an energy exchange when I like, and I'm charging for it, I do take, 10% of what I earn and I put it towards like decolonial things where it's like, for me, it was like the Stop Asian Hate movement and things like that, where it's like, this needs to go into the communities where like this knowledge has come from. And that's just always been a part of like how I understand those things, that is really important. And I know that like that keeps me feeling like, grounded in that practice. But I think that everybody has to check in with themselves of like, well, how does this feel and what does this look like? And obviously like you can find a practitioner that is more closely culturally connected to Reiki, then that is important. I also think that like we have to feel right in our spirit about what we're doing, so there are people that I would work with, friends of mine that are doing all of their anti-racist work and all these kinds of things, and I would feel comfortable going to them. But that's me. So I just wanted to add that piece and be like, if you ever want to talk about it some more, people have questions, like feel free to bug me about it. And also just like validating that like we all get to have different perspectives on it. And I think that's important. I think that's what I like about this space the most, is like we're all like, this is where I'm coming from, this is where you're coming from, and we all kind of like figure out our own path, but like in parallel, if that makes sense. Okay, that is all.
Thank you, Petra. We have about 5 minutes left in Sass today. I think it's been a really amazing discussion today. If anybody has any final thoughts that they would like to share, I would love to open that up. If we want to, we can all just collectively take 3 deep breaths together to end Sass. I think that, I don't know about anybody else, but I could definitely use a moment of grounding. I love all these witchy discussions and where they take us. And I appreciate everyone's perspective. So if we all just want to take a big deep breath in through the nose, soak in that community vibe. And a breath out, grounding yourself into your body and your space and this now moment. I am so grateful you're here, and I am so grateful to be a part of this community.